Okay, so I know this car. Well, not this car specifically, but I know the Hyundai Kona. The last generation Kona Electric was one of my favorite EVs of the era. I've driven the Kona N around racetracks. I've just reviewed the Kona Hybrid for CarsGuide.com.au, and in fact, I drove here today in a petrol-powered Kona. In fact, it's parked just over there. So when it comes to Hyundai's not-so-small SUV, I'm really all over it. Except for this one. This is the new Kona Electric, a model that's supposed to bridge the gap between the brand's regular electric models and its more premium Ioniq range. But the big question is, this will almost certainly be the most expensive model in the Kona range. And is that the one you really want? And does electrification help or hinder the Kona formula in this new generation? Let's go find out.
The new Kona Electric can be had as a base model or as a premium, with the entry level then able to be had with two battery sizes, standard range or extended range, while the premium only gets the bigger battery. So the base Kona Electric standard range is 54 grand before on-road costs, while the extended range version of the same car is 58 grand. The Kona Electric Premium is 68 grand. Now for the record, that makes the Kona slightly more expensive than the BYD Atto 3, yet cheaper than a Tesla Model Y, positioning it somewhere in the middle of those two models. What separates the base model cars is the battery size. So both share 17-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, dual 12.3-inch screens, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, a wireless phone charger, dual zone climate, keyless entry, push button start, as well as a pretty full active safety suite. The premium grade then gets synthetic leather interior trim, heated and ventilated seats, a heated steering wheel, a head-up display, a Bose premium audio system, remote smart parking assist, a sunroof and a powered tailgate.
Let's keep the design element a little short and sweet because after all, you can see the car for yourself, right? However, I've got to point out a couple of things I really like, including these sharp body creases, which can look a little overdone on other Hyundai products, but really suit the Kona EV, I reckon. And I love the front and rear treatments, especially the light treatment that looks especially sharp at night. And I'm a fan of this pixel grille, which is exclusive to the electric models as well. But overall, it looks modern and fresh, but without looking too futuristic and space age. I really like it. The cabin experience in the Kona Electric is good, but probably not spectacular. For mine, there's still a few too many hard plastic touch points, especially like where you put your elbow when driving, for my taste. That said, it is a clean, modern and tech-heavy with this big twin screen setup experience in here. And look, actual buttons and toggles so you can control things without digging through 1,000 menu screens. It's revolutionary. Now, I don't want to hear this nonsense about EVs not being practical ever again. This one's got a 27-litre frunk, a 407-litre boot, bigger again if you fold these seats down. It's got an actual power point here to keep your devices topped up. There's V2L and bidirectional charging, a 750 kilogram brake towing capacity, and look, a gigantic back seat. What more do you want? You can have your Kona Electric in two guises, and the entry-level model scores an electric motor producing 99 kilowatts and 255 newton meters. This one, though, the premium, ups the grunt to 150 kilowatts. Neither, though, are particularly fast, reporting a 9.9 or 8.1 second sprint to 100 kilometers an hour, respectively. The key perk, of course, is fuel use or the lack of it. Literally this morning, I filled up my petrol-powered Kona and it cost me 85 bucks to fill that tiny little fuel tank. Honestly, I almost wept. Not a problem with these though, and if you're charging using solar, your transport is effectively free. The downside though is that neither charge particularly fast. In fact, they're limited to about 84 kilowatts DC fast charging, which means if you are topping up while on the road, it'll take about 45 minutes to get to 80%. Okay, welcome to the open road and to the Kona Electric, and I've spent plenty of time behind the wheel of this one. In fact, I drove it home from Canberra just the other day, so I'm pretty familiar with the way it steers, and now we're on Sydney roads. And I gotta say, I haven't really found anything that I dislike about the drive experience yet, only that it feels like the wick's been dialed down slightly since the last one. It just feels a little softer and a little more sensible, but I'm not entirely sure that's a bad thing. We've spoken already about this not being the fastest EV out there, and yes, there are some electric vehicles that accelerate lightning fast from the traffic lights, but is that what you really want in a small SUV like this one, or would you rather just have something that feels a little more comfortable, a little more cosseting, and a little more calm from behind the wheel? And this one certainly does that. But I do have one kind of downside, and that is driving home from Canberra, I had to stop and charge on the way home, and I appreciate that most people charge their EVs at home, but it does come a time when you need to use public charging infrastructure. 45 minutes to get to 80% really did feel like a long time, especially as I was just sitting in a hot car park. It wasn't the most pleasant experience ever. So that's one slight downside. I guess you're not really charging on the road that often. Most of you are charging at home. As I mentioned earlier, if you have solar panels, that makes charging pretty much free. Now, this vehicle actually wasn't tuned here in Australia, but it still feels really well suited to Australian conditions. The steering is nice and confidence-inspiring, but it's never overly sharp. The ride kind of errs on firm, I suppose, but it doesn't stray into uncomfortable very often unless you hit really big road imperfections. I've driven this car on freeways, on suburban streets, and now on this kind of fast-flowing city stuff, and handles it all really well. But overall, I guess it's just one of those cars that does most things well without really having anything specifically to call out about it. All the EV boxes are ticked. It's got multi-level regen braking, including the ability to stop and go. And really the experience is very car-like. And by that, I mean ICE car-like. It doesn't feel like a big jump from a petrol-powered Kona into this. So if you're sort of nervous about making the EV switch, this one will make you feel very comfortable very quickly.
It is officially a 4-star ANCAP vehicle, this new Kona, owing mostly to the performance of some of its active safety kit, like AEB, which ANCAP described as adequate. How much that bothers you though is an individual thing, and I can tell you it doesn't bother me much at all, because the Kona is still fitted with a whole bunch of safety kit, including 7 airbags and a heap of smart tech. The Kona Electric is covered by Hyundai's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, while the battery is covered for 8 years or 160,000 kilometres. Servicing is a strong point too, with intervals pegged at 24 months or 30,000 kilometres and capped at $520 per visit for the first 3 services, which can last up to 6 years.
The EV space in Australia has never been more competitive, and it's still almost entirely dominated by Tesla. However, if you're looking for a small SUV that's refreshingly familiar and still plenty practical, the Kona Electric might be worth a look.